Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Anatomy and Physiology Laboratory discussion. Today, we will have Activity 18, the reproductive systems. The reproductive system is a collection of internal and external organs in both males and females that work together for the purpose of procreating. Due to its vital role in the survival of the species, many scientists argue that the reproductive system is among the most important systems in the entire body. For the learning objectives, at the end of the discussion, the students are expected to be able to identify the parts of the male and the female reproductive organs, discuss the general functions of the male and female reproductive organs, identify the structures of the testes and ovaries, and to trace the processes of fertilization in the female reproductive systems. Let's begin with the male reproductive system. The general functions of the male reproductive system includes to produce, maintain, and transport sperm and semen, to discharge sperm within the female reproductive tract during intercourse, and to produce and secrete male sex hormones responsible for maintaining the male reproductive system. The male reproductive system is composed of external organs and internal organs. The external organs includes the penis, the scrotum, and the testicles. The penis has three parts: the root, which attaches to the wall of the abdomen, the body or shaft, and the glans, which is the cone-shaped part at the end of the penis. The glans, also called the head of the penis, is covered with a loose layer of skin called foreskin. This skin is sometimes removed in a process called circumcision. The opening of the urethra, which is the tube that transports semen and urine, is found at the tip of the penis. The glans of the penis also contains a number of sensitive nerve endings. The scrotum is a loose pouch-like sac of skin that hangs behind and below the penis. It contains the testicles or testes, as well as many blood and nerve vessels. The scrotum acts as a climate control system for the testes. For normal sperm development, the testes must be at a temperature slightly cooler than body temperature, usually around 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower. Special muscles in the wall of the scrotum allow it to contract and relax, moving the testicles closer to the body for warmth or farther away from the body to cool the temperature. The testicles or the testes are a pair of oval organs about the size of large olives that lie in the scrotum, secured at either end by a structure called the spermatic cord. Within the testes are coiled masses of tubes called seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules are responsible for producing sperm cells. The testes are also responsible for making testosterone, the primary male sex hormone, which is secreted by interstitial or Leydig cells. The testis also has the sustentacular or Sertoli cells, which support, protect, and nourish spermatogenic cells. Now, for the internal male reproductive system, the organs included are the following: the epididymis, which is a long coiled tube that rests on the backside of each testicle. It transports and stores sperm cells that are produced in the testes. It also is a job of the epididymis to bring the sperm to maturity, since the sperm that emerge from the testes are immature and incapable of fertilization. The vas deferens, also known as the ductus deferens, is a long muscular tube that travels from the epididymis into the pelvic cavity to just behind the bladder. The vas deferens transports mature sperm to the urethra, the tube that carries urine or sperm outside the body. The seminal vesicles are sac-like pouches that attach to the vas deferens near the base of the bladder. The seminal vesicles produce a sugar-rich fluid, usually fructose, that provides the sperm with a source of energy to help them move. The fluid of the seminal vesicles make up most of the volume of a man's ejaculatory fluid or ejaculate. The prostate gland is a walnut-sized structure that is located below the urinary bladder in front of the rectum. The prostate gland contributes additional fluid to the ejaculate. Prostate fluids also help to nourish the sperm. It contains zinc to stabilize the sperm's DNA. The bulbourethral glands, also called the Cowper's glands, are pea-sized structures located on the sides of the urethra just below the prostate gland. These glands produce a clear, slippery fluid that empties directly into the urethra. This fluid serves to lubricate the urethra and to neutralize any acidity that may be present due to the residual drops of urine in the urethra. The semen contains sperm and secretions. A volume of about 2.5 ml is a normal amount of ejaculated semen. There are about 50 to 150 million sperm cells per ml of semen. The secretion mostly comes from the seminal vesicles. However, the prostate gland and the Cowper's gland contribute to the secretions as well. The sperm cell. The sperm cell is usually flattened at the head side and almond shaped, about 4 to 5 micrometers long and 2 to 3 micrometers wide. The head portion is mainly a cell nucleus. It contains the chromosomes. Covering the head of the sperm is a cap called acrosome, which contains enzymes that helps the sperm to enter an egg. The small middle portion of the sperm contains the mitochondria. The tail of the sperm, sometimes called the flagellum, is a slender, hair-like bundle of filaments that connects the head and the middle portion. The tail is about 50 micrometers long. Its thickness of 1 micrometer near the mitochondria gradually diminishes to less than 1/2 micrometer at the end of the tail, which means it's tapering. The tail gives the sperm cell movement. It whips and undulates so that the cell can travel to the egg. Now let's move on to the female reproductive system. Its general functions include to produce egg or ovum, to transport and sustain these cells, to nurture the developing fetus, and to produce hormones. Like the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system is also divided into external and internal organs. The external genitalia are the accessory structures of the female reproductive system that are external to the vagina. They are also referred to as the vulva. The external genitalia include the labia majora, the labia minora, mons pubis, clitoris, and the glands within the vestibule. The clitoris is an erectile organ, similar to the male penis, that responds to sexual stimulation. Posterior to the clitoris the urethra, vagina, paraurethral glands, and greater vestibular glands, also known as Bartholin glands, open into the vestibule. The vagina. Okay. The vagina is a fibromuscular tube about 10 centimeters long that extends from the cervix of the uterus to the outside. It is located between the rectum and the urinary bladder. Because the vagina is tilted posteriorly as it ascends and the cervix is tilted anteriorly, the cervix projects into the vagina at nearly a right angle. The vagina serves as a passageway for menstrual flow. It receives the erect penis during intercourse and is the birth canal during childbirth. There are two uterine tubes, also known as fallopian tubes or oviducts. There is one tube associated with each ovary. The end of the tube near the ovary expands to form a funnel-shaped infundibulum, which is surrounded by finger-like extensions called fimbriae. Because there is no direct connection between the infundibulum and the ovary, the oocyte enters the peritoneal cavity before it enters the fallopian tube. At the time of ovulation, the fimbriae increase their activity and create currents in the peritoneal fluid that help propel the oocyte into the fallopian tube. Once inside the fallopian tube, the oocyte is moved along by the rhythmic beating of cilia on the epithelial lining and by the peristaltic action of the small smooth muscle in the walls of the tube. The journey through the fallopian tube takes about 7 days. Because the oocyte is fertile for only about 24 to 48 hours, fertilization usually occurs in the fallopian tube. The primary female reproductive organs, or the gonads, are the two ovaries. Each ovary is a solid ovoid structure about the size and shape of an almond, about 3.5 centimeters in length, 2 centimeters wide, and 1 centimeter thick. The ovaries are located in shallow depressions called the ovarian fossae, one on each side of the uterus, in the lateral walls of the pelvic cavity. They are held loosely in place by peritoneal ligaments. The substance of the ovaries is distinctly divided into an outer cortex, this portion here, and an inner medulla right here. The cortex appear more dense and granular due to the presence of numerous ovarian follicles in various stages of development, from primordial follicles to corpus luteum. Each of the follicles contain an oocyte, this one. An oocyte is a female germ cell. The medulla is a loose connective tissue with abundant blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, as well as nerve fibers. The uterus is a muscular organ that receives the fertilized oocyte and provides an appropriate environment for the developing fetus. Before the first pregnancy, the uterus is about the size and shape of a pear, with a narrow portion directed inferiorly. After childbirth, the uterus is usually larger, then regresses after menopause. The uterus is lined with endometrium in the inner wall. Then the middle part of the uterine wall is called the myometrium, and the external wall of the uterus is called the perimetrium. The stratum functionale of the endometrium, or the inner wall, right here, okay, sloughs off during menstruation. The deeper stratum basale underneath that provides the foundation for rebuilding the stratum functionale. Now, to accomplish the last objective, let us discuss the processes of fertilization. These processes include ovulation, fertilization, and implantation. Each month inside the ovaries, a group of eggs start to grow in small fluid-filled sacs called follicles. Eventually, one of the eggs erupts from the follicle. That process is called ovulation. It usually happens about 2 weeks before the next menstrual period. After the egg leaves the follicle develops into the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum releases a hormone that helps thicken the lining of the uterus, getting it ready for the egg. After the egg is released, it moves into the fallopian tube. It stays there for about 24 hours, waiting for a single sperm to fertilize it. If a sperm does make its way into the fallopian tube and burrows itself into the egg, it then fertilizes the egg. The egg changes so that no other sperm can get in. The fertilized egg stays in the fallopian tube for about 3 to 4 days, but within 24 hours of being fertilized, it starts dividing fast into many cells. It keeps dividing as it moves slowly through the fallopian tube to the uterus. Eventually, it attaches to the lining of the uterus. This is called implantation. And that organ system marks the end of the anatomy and physiology laboratory discussions for this semester. Thank you all for listening.